When I first met Jaiya, she said she's a hands-on sex therapist, and I thought, wow. Cool. My Puritan background prevented me, because, I mean, we're all, grown up with hang-ups. Like you can't say sex, okay, without attracting attention. So I mean, I'm just so honored that you were able to make it, because I know there was like scheduling conflicts. So we're really blessed to have her here. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Should we shut the door?
We may want to. So in case you missed it, this is the sex class, and we will be talking about it. And one of the things that I feel happens to a lot of people when we start talking about sex is that we hold our breath. So thank you all for breathing. I'm going to remind us, I'll feel you all holding your breath, and I'll remind you to keep breathing. The other thing that happens is we tend to fly out of our bodies sometimes. We dissociate. We can't take in the information. So just notice if you're being present in the room, or have you flown off somewhere? Or are you starting to feel really sleepy? Those are other signs of the information is too much. And so I invite you all to take care of yourself in that. Remember to breathe. Remember to stay as present as possible in the room. Great, let's go. Okay. So she leapt for joy, her feet barely touching the ground. She was in so much ecstasy and bliss. She felt completely and fully alive. How many of you would like to feel that regularly? To be in a state of such ecstatic aliveness? Okay, if you're not raising your hand. Okay, all right, good. So let me tell you one secret, which is sexual energy. It allows us to live in an alive, orgasmic state. Think about it. We are all a product of what? Sex. Yeah. We all came from it. So when we shame sex, we actually are shaming being human. That's, we're all a product of it. So if it becomes a beautiful thing, we become more beautiful. We become more alive. We become more ecstatic. All right, so just a little bit about me. I'm actually a somatic sexologist. So what that means is that I have a specialized license that allows me to work with the body. I work hands-on, hands-in with people. I also can look at bioenergetics. I'll talk about that a little bit more, biochemistry. I'm looking at a holistic model of sexology, I'm not a therapist who's just gonna sit and talk. We're gonna actually do exercises. We're gonna move our bodies. Is anybody feeling flutters in their belly as I start talking about this? Okay, good. So I'm gonna keep checking in with you, because I never know if people are like, I made a very G-rated version today, but I started talking to some people last night, and I was like, maybe I can get a little bit saucier with this talk today. So just let me know if you feel triggered at all. Because I want to keep it at comfort level, but at the same time with sexuality, I like to push the edge a little bit, push the envelope a little bit. Okay, good. I have permission to push. Okay.
Should I close the door?
Maybe.
No, there's some single women here.
There are. You want to see the men going by. So I am the author of 4 best-selling books. You can check those out. They have some fun titles. I've been on lots of media, so Nightline, Good Morning America. Anderson Cooper was really fun. The doctors, they invited me on CBS on daytime television, something I told I would never have happen in my life. When I wrote my first book, my publicist said, "You'll never be on television because of your topic." And I said, "I'm going to prove you completely wrong." I was on CBS daytime talking about female ejaculation on daytime television and educating the doctors about it. So, at any rate, I'm very proud of that one. I spoke on lots of stages all over the world. One of my favorite stages is actually for Tony Robbins. He'll come up here in a moment. I've been teaching with him since 2009, just at another event. His relationship event is the best, most amazing in the world, 6 days. And that's Esther Perel, who I also really highly value. I love her work. She has a great book called Mating in Captivity, and an amazing TED Talk, millions and millions and millions, on how do we keep our relationships committed? Why is infidelity so big these days? And she's incredible. I have a private practice, and I teach a lot of movement, and I help a lot of people have massive transformation in their relationships. This particular couple, they had been married 20 years, And I remember her saying, "You saved my 20-year marriage." She thought that they were done. Like, he had no interest. She couldn't get what she wanted, needed. She couldn't communicate about what she needed. And at any rate, this is one of my other very proud moments. So helped a lot of people. But the best part is I have a hot, juicy, passionate sex life with my partner. I feel like I would be very incongruent if I was up here talking to you about sex and I wasn't having a hot, juicy, hot, amazing, passionate sex life myself. So I think this is one of my biggest credentials. But it wasn't always that way. So I went from a complete and total sex goddess to a freaked out mother, back to a sex goddess again, thank goodness. But let me tell you a little bit about the freaked out mom part. So here I am, a sex educator. I teach people all over the world about this. And I have a baby. How many of you are moms? Yeah, so you know that changes your body, changes how you feel about your sexuality. And I knew some things would change, but I wasn't prepared for what it did. So I blew out my entire pelvic floor. I'm gonna get TMI with you guys, is that okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I blew out my pelvic floor. I had a tear that went from my vaginal canal all the way to my anus. And not only that, but it was an L shape. So this was the part from my vaginal canal to my anus, and this was my bottom of my vaginal canal. So it was an L. It went all the way through back towards my cervix and all the way down to my anus. They stitched me up. I was all good. I didn't feel it, so it wasn't, okay, breathe. and it was all good until I actually went to have sex again. And my vaginal opening was held open like this, and everything was black and blue and purple. This was 3 months later still. And so my pelvic floor was completely traumatized. And I was incongruent with my work now. I can't have sex. I have this major damage. My partner lost complete interest in having sex with me. We're now, going on months and months and months. And luckily, through a miracle, I fixed my pelvic floor. Within 3 sessions of pelvic floor massage and some other treatments, I was healthy, pink tissue, there's no scar. I had massive keloidal scars, no scar. It was a miracle. And I thought I was gonna, doctors told me, we're gonna cut you open again, we're gonna reconstruct your whole vulva, whole reconstructive mess. I didn't need any of it. It was all massage and oils. Then my partner and I had this big rift. All of a sudden, we didn't know how to connect anymore. We didn't know how to keep the passion alive. I was crying myself asleep at night because all of a sudden, like, I'm not doing what I preach. I'm not practicing what I preach. I'm having no sex. I have a sexless relationship. What's going on? How do we get this back? And then I started thinking, I don't even know if I love him anymore. I don't know if I want to stay in the relationship, and who is this man that I'm with? And that was sort of my rock bottom, was really looking at him and asking, do I want to be with this man anymore? And so it was rough. And then we found a bunch of tools to turn it around. And so today I'd like to share with you some of those tools that I believe will keep things hot and passionate and juicy for the rest of your lives. And part of that starts with sexual vitality. Okay, so we turned it around. Yay, we're hot and juicy. This was just us at our anniversary last year. We were in Big Sur. It was awesome. Having an awesome time. He's great. I love him 100%. Like, I jumped back in 100%. We are crazy mad. Anybody who knows us? Yeah, you guys, some of you guys who know us. So my mission is to help women, men, couples learn more about their sexuality so they can have deeper connections, lasting passion, total sexual fulfillment, improved vitality and aliveness. Because I truly believe I don't teach people about sex, I teach them how to be more alive. I have a lot of missions, so I just wanted to share 2. The other is to eradicate sexual shame, or at least help others get shame resilient. I think sometimes the taboo of sex is hot and juicy and fun, so we need a little bit of that edge. But shame, and I'll talk about the difference between shame and guilt in a little bit. And to start an open conversation about sexuality so that we can have the freedom to express ourselves, access to great education, and to realize we're not alone. That's what's on the bottom there. My slides might be a little weird because we had to switch over to PowerPoint, so forgive me for that. It's a sexy moment. We just say when we make mistakes, we're just being sexier. So in this class, you're going to understand why a healthy sexuality equals more vitality, longevity, and aliveness. You're going to release some shame and some limiting beliefs about sex. You're going to gain communication and touch skills. And Red Hot Touch was my first book that I wrote, and touch, we saw in the slide Dr. Bergman was talking about mice being held. Touch can heal. It has such an intense power to heal. I started out as a massage therapist, and I've seen such incredible things. Miracles happen just from people being touched. I've seen people who aren't touched and what that does on the other end of the spectrum. We're going to discover the 4 obstacles to sexual health and pleasure. And we're going to learn about your personal erotic blueprint. This is some of my most exciting cutting edge work that I'm doing. I discovered different erotic blueprints through touch. And these blueprints I've just seen the most amazing things happen from understanding what your blueprint is, what your partner's blueprint is. Are any of you familiar with the 5 love languages? Mm-hmm. Have you read that? It's similar to that, only with sex. Okay. Good stuff. And we're going to play with some touch. So we will be touching either our own bodies or each other's bodies. Good. Okay, so let's take a breath and just take a moment to get present. So go ahead and put your feet flat on the floor and cross your legs. Good. And I just want you to close your eyes and bring all your awareness to your pelvic floor, where it's sitting in the chair, what's touching, what's not. And ladies, I'm going to ask you to actually bring awareness to your clitoris. And just notice what's happening there. Is there a buzzing or a tingling? And men, bring awareness to your genitals as well. And just notice. And take a breath, nice deep breath. And just continuing to hold awareness there. And get curious about it. Does it feel tense? Can you relax it a little bit more? Are you holding there? Is there a pulse or a buzz? Does it feel like there's sort of an unawareness? Does it feel empty? Does it feel disconnected from the rest of your body? Just noticing. And there's no judgment of one good or bad, it's just noticing. Good, and now begin just to pulse just a little bit, just squeezing the muscles. Women, you can focus high in your vagina, near the back wall of the cervix. And men, between your scrotum and your anus, just pulsing just a little bit, noticing. Good, and take a deep breath and squeeze those muscles. Hold it, take a sniff of air, and now exhale. Good, and now slowly, slowly open your eyes. Good. What are some things you noticed? You can just pop out corn out in the room. What did you notice?
Energy.
Energy. What did it feel like?
Feel like tingling.
Yeah? What else?
Blood flow.
Blood flow. Blood coming into the area. Good.
Good feeling.
Good feelings. Good. Anyone else notice anything? Did anybody not notice anything? Okay, everybody, one person. Okay, good, good, great. And so for me, when it comes to sexuality, it's all just information. There's no like, this is bad or this is good. I always see everything as just information. It's telling me something about my body. It's telling me something about what's happening. It's telling me something about what's not happening. And there's no judgment on it. And same thing when you're working with your partner or touching your partner, it's all just information. You're learning about them. Okay, thank you for playing. So just a few class agreements, because we are talking about sex. I like to keep everything confidential. So can we agree, if anyone's sharing in this room, that we keep everything confidential that's said? I just want to create a safe container. Yes, okay, everyone has their hands up. Consensual, this means that I'm going to ask permission, and that because we're doing a sex class, sometimes people think people's bodies are more available, or now we're going to hug each other. Maybe they're not in that space. So I often ask, just ask consent. Would you like a hug right now? Is it okay for us to partner together? Is it okay for me to touch you? Contribution. This means contributing to the space, contributing to one another. I may ask you a question in this class like, okay, well, what would you do in this situation if somebody has a question? And then we can all contribute. There's some of my advanced students actually in this room who've done my program, so they're graduates, and I invite you to contribute if you feel called to. And also to contribute to me as the speaker, I love your feedback. So when I ask you for something like, what did you notice? It really feeds me so I can give more when you interact with me. I love that. Self-care. This is me talking about when you were dissociating or when you're holding your breath. Just notice, what do you need? Do you need to get up? Do you need to stretch? Do you need to shake out a little bit as we're talking about these things? And then compassion. So empathy and compassion. I've been studying a lot. Anybody know Brene Brown's work? No? Oh, you have to check out Brene Brown's work. She has a great book. I'm reading it right now. Daring Greatly is her first book, but there's a Rising Strong is the one I'm reading right now. She talks about the difference between compassion, sympathy, and empathy. And compassion, sympathy is something I do where I'll go, oh no, I'm so sorry that happened. And she says that actually increases shame. So what we want to do is we want to be there with somebody instead of being over here. Like, oh no, I'm so sorry that happened is me being over here. Whereas when I have empathy, I'm with you. I'm saying, oh wow, me too. Gosh, that's so hard. Me too. After I had my baby, I really went through a challenging time too. That's really hard. Or if I haven't been there, wow, I haven't been there, but I imagine that that's a really hard place to be. That you're putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and that's practicing empathy. Okay, can we all agree to these as we're doing this class together? Okay, great. So what's your dream? Let's start by writing down, or if you don't have anything to write with, just take a moment to close your eyes. And I want you to envision your ultimate relationship. Whether you're in one or you're not in one, what does your ultimate relationship look like? What does your sex life look like in that relationship? When you wake up in the morning, do you make love and then you have a leisurely breakfast together? Or is it you like at nighttime? What does it look like for you to create your ultimate relationship? So I just want to give you just a moment just to write down, brainstorm, close your eyes or think about it. What does it look like? What would that bring you if you had that relationship? And what does an amazing day filled together look like? What does the sensuality in that day look like? People often ask me, how much is enough sex? And I say, well, I have to ask them the question, well, how much do you want? Because really it could vary. I have a wife who says, I want it every 14 days, and the guy who says that I want it every day. Well, we have to work on your dreams together. Good, so that's gonna be a question I want you to keep pondering over this whole trip. What does the ultimate relationship look like, and what does it bring you? I think that's a really important question. You know, if I think about my ultimate relationship, I have my ultimate relationship, which is really incredible. I have a partner who's incredibly empathic, who meets my needs. I'm able to meet his needs. We have sex 4 to 5 times a week. It's good sex for the most part, unless I'm doing some crazy experiment. Like last week when I was like, I'm gonna do an experiment with trying to give you feedback just with sound, and something didn't feel good. I'm like, and he completely lost his erection, and it was just like, we just lost the whole thing. But you know, I mean, I do these experiments, right? So I pretty much have it, and what it brings me is, I mean, it's everything for me. It's my finances, it's my health, it's my aliveness. It really is everything. If I didn't have the level of relationship that I have, I would be in suffering. Okay, so the silent epidemic that's happening today, we have 1 in 3 long-term relationships in America are sexless. That's a lot of people. Divorce rates are over 50%, and some people say that they're actually much higher because people lie on the surveys. Affair rates are one that they say is probably more around 70–80%, but they come up on surveys around 50 because they say, again, people don't tell the truth when it comes to a sex survey. And over 40% of women claim to be sexually dissatisfied. I have a lot of men who are like, well, no, none of the other women ever said anything before. And I'm like, that's because 76% of women fake pleasure in the bedroom. So ladies, no more faking it and taking it. We have to start speaking up. And it's hard even for me, and this came up for me in my last workshop. Sometimes I don't say anything. And it's because I don't want to hurt his feelings, or because it kind of feels good and I know that if we could just tweak something it would feel even better, but as soon as I say something I know all the pleasure is going to drop to zero because I just got my frontal cortex online, and then I can't keep my pleasure cocktail of all the hormones that are going on. As soon as I talk to someone, I see the women really, yes. So we don't speak up a lot of times, and so I'm trying to uncover new ways of giving feedback, hence my don't try that one at home. So what's the cause of this? We have a lack of education around sexuality. We have poor communication around sexuality. We have a loss of passion that happens over time due to lack of education and poor communication. And we have deficient sexual health and vitality. You're going to hear me harp on these things. So sexual health is a reflection of your overall health. A lot of times people are not looking, when there's a sexual health signal going on, they're not looking at overall health. They isolate it to just sexuality. But in truth, if you have erectile dysfunction, you could have a heart issue or a circulation issue or something else, or nervous system issue going on. Something else is going on in the system when the sexual health is not at its optimal peak. So we want sexual health to be there. I was just talking to somebody a couple of days ago about this, that when we start seeing sexual health go down, we start seeing all kinds of degeneration happening. And my theory, and I've talked to a couple docs about this, is that when your body no longer thinks it's having sex, it starts aging rapidly. It starts going, okay, I can die now. I don't need to reproduce anymore. As opposed to when it's staying sexually vital, it keeps you alive, literally. Your sex hormones are your youth hormones. So thriving vitality equals an overall abundance of aliveness, feelings of passion and desire. You feel alive, essentially, when you have thriving sexual vitality. You live in an ecstatic state, an orgasmic state. This is one of my personal missions, is how can I discover all that's possible in my body and live in ecstasy, live turned on, live alive, live in my fullness all the time. So we're going to go to lack of vitality, what this causes. So we have unhappiness, disconnection, loss of aliveness, pain and suffering, feeling like you're broken. How many of you have felt like you're broken in sex? Like, I don't really, yeah. I hear that one a lot. So the sexual vitality gremlins. Let's talk about these. The biochemical things that go on in the body when it comes to sex. So menopause could be a biochemical shift. Having a baby, biochemical shift. How many of you have had your hormones tested and know where you're at? Okay, a few of you. We also have neurotransmitter dominance and knowing what neurotransmitters we are most dominant in. So for example, I'm a high dopamine. And high dopamine means that I'm much more likely to look at the hot thing over there. Oh, and the next hot thing over there. I'm going to have a higher drive. Dopamine, I'm a little bit of a dopamine addict, and I don't have a lot of GABA in my neurotransmitter dominance, which means I need to balance it out. So I need to have more GABA so that I'm a little bit more calm. Or I just go to see Dr. Bergman and have him straighten out my nervous system so that my neurotransmitters are more balanced. So those are things you want to know on the chemical end. Emotionally, is it hard to have sex when we are feeling not emotionally there? You know, we just talked about the emotional connection. If I feel like my partner's in a bad mood, if I'm not in the right state, for how many of you do you need to be in like a really good place in order to feel turned on emotionally? And some of you, not. Like I'm not one of those people who needs a lot of emotional rightness. I will say I need emotional connection, but I don't need like him to be in a good mood. We can get in a good mood. You
can fix that.
But my partner, on the other hand, needs to be in the right space. And this talk speaks to his blueprint, which I'll talk about a bit. The physical things, back pain, knee problems. I work a lot with people on positioning. Like I can't get in different sexual positions because of all of the physical pains that are happening, or car accidents, the neck curve, all of that, those physical things are going to affect your sexual health and pleasure. And then finally, the energetic sphere. We're bioenergetic before we're anything else. Dr. Bergman was talking about that. So things like, I'm very bioenergetically sensitive. So wearing this mic pack, When I wear a mic pack, I get pain all through the area where I'm wearing the mic pack. And,
Don't wear it.
I know, I shouldn't wear it. I was wearing one last week and I had it back here. And then I had somebody just there's a microphone because it's wireless. And so the massage guy went up my back like this, and right where I was wearing my mic pack, it went and just in the area where I was wearing my mic pack. And so it's just really interesting how sensitive I am to energetics. Wireless, all that kind of stuff is making noise in the field. And so there's this whole unknown field, and I've worked in energy medicine for many years, and I'm always amazed at what happens in this field and how we can open up to what we don't even know is possible. Some of you guys have seen demonstrations with what's possible who've worked with me, and I had a guy on my table who was a demonstration for a workshop I was doing last week, and I just put my hands on his body and his whole body started, and orgasms were just moving through his spine. And he was just having orgasmic waves on my table, and I hadn't even put my hands on his body yet. And once I got my hands on his body, then he really started going, just having orgasm after orgasm, rolling into orgasm. So these are things that are possible, energetic orgasms. And I love talking about what's possible because I keep challenging myself to discover more, and there's always more. So just take a moment to think about, in your sexuality, what of these are the areas you're dealing with, and they all affect each other. So I might have an energetic thing that affects a chemical thing. I might have an emotional thing that affects a physical thing. They all are linked together like a puzzle. Also in energetic, I talk about polarity, and this is something that a lot of couples lose over time. The longer you're together, the less polarity you have. So polarity would be energies like light and dark energy, and masculine and feminine energy. So I can play with these energies. I can show you guys just a little bit about what that looks like. So if I start doing this, I just moved completely into my feminine energy. Do you see the difference? Versus if I stand like this, I've now moved into masculine energy, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm talking about. Do you feel the difference in those energies? If I'm in my light energy, I changed my vocal tone just a little bit, and I'm a little bit sweeter. I have a lot more lighter energy, and I went a little bit more feminine. But I can also be very light and very masculine. If I go into dark energy, well, this is where I'm a little bad. I've been a bad girl. And it's harder for me right now to move into dark energy in this room because you guys are all so light. So if I was really going to be a bad girl. Okay, so, and then we have also, you've seen yin and yang energies. And then we also have masculine, feminine, light and dark. And then the other one is in control or surrendered. So right now you are being more surrendered and I'm more in control. But I could also go into a very surrendered state and have someone else share. So we want these dynamics in the bedroom. This is not, outside the bedroom, of course, we want equal rights and all of that, but equality in the bedroom equals flatline, equals loss of passion. So we want to make sure that we have opposites, because what? Opposites attract. We want opposites. It's like a magnet. If you have two poles of the same, you get repelling. If you have opposites, they attract each other greatly. So we need this masculine and feminine, light and dark, and control and surrender. There's many, many qualities to the yin and the yang. Okay. So here are some gremlins I'll talk about quickly. So poor health is a huge gremlin. We don't move enough, and this is very bad for our pelvic floors. We've got to start moving. There's a lot of poor dietary things, the plastic water bottles. I actually do not ever use Febreze. I do not ever use those air freshener things. Nobody heard me say the brand name. They're estrogen disruptors. I actually was working with a doc, and she had a client who had started lactating, a male client who had started lactating. He'd grown some boobs, and she asked him what he was doing. And he was spraying Febreze in his car every day. So he was sitting in a Febreze bubble, and it started causing his estrogen and testosterone to be off. So this is a very biochemical disruptor. We have shame about our bodies and our desires, so we don't talk about them. Our lack of education about our bodies and how they work, and Dr. Bergman's here educating you so much about your body. about our sexuality. We have a lack of education there, the poor communication both outside and inside the bedroom. A lot of times I see the polarity issues show up in the way we communicate as well. So we're going to shift the frame around sexuality. We're going to stop the vitality gremlins in their tracks, and we're going to understand more about your sexuality. So these are some of my favorite studies. Positive sexual experiences decrease stress. How many of you feel really relaxed after you have a really good orgasm? Yes or yes, as Dr. Bergman says. Duh. One study found that orgasm in women was protective against the risk of death. Now, I don't know how they did that study. Like, okay, these women had orgasms, they didn't die. These women didn't have orgasms, they died. I hope I wasn't in the control group. But in reality, I was talking to a doc, and I said, he's holistic minded, and I said, tell me about sexuality, because he was really into what I was doing and asking me a lot of questions. I was like, why are you so interested in it? And he said, because I see my patients with cancer stop having sex, and they're the ones who die. And I see my patients with cancer who keep having sex, and they are getting better. And I want to know what's going on. Why is sex so healing? Why are these people who keep sexually active living? Another long-term study, men who had frequent orgasms were found to have 50% less risk of death than males who didn't. So good for men to have orgasms. Will keep you from dying. Couples who have sex 3 times a week look more than 10 years younger than the average adult who makes love less frequently. People always ask me what skin cream I use. I say orgasm. So how do I stay so youthful and energetic? Sexual vitality. It is my secret. Okay. We went over a little bit here. Sex burns lots of calories. That's what that top one says. 200 calories when you have sex. When you're sexually alive, your brain functions better. I'm going to talk about a study that just came out about that. 2001 study from Queen's University in Ireland suggested having sex 3 times or more a week reduced the risk of heart attack and stroke in men. Orgasms are thought to fight infection by increasing infection-fighting cells up to 20%. This is my school, the Institute for the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. That's where I went. They showed that sexually active people take less sick days. In men, studies have shown that a higher frequency of ejaculation is correlated with a lower incidence of prostate cancer. So it is good for your prostate. So there was a study that just went on about dementia and sex. And they found that people who had sex, who were over 50, had a decrease in dementia. And not only that, but it was reversing dementia. So we were joking that we should get sexological body workers and people who do what I do, somatic sexologists, to go to all the nursing homes for people with dementia and start helping them have more pleasure in their bodies, because it actually bathes the brain. What they're finding is that when you have pleasure, your brain is bathed and it keeps your brain healthier. So right now I'm going to ask you in this moment, what would bring you more pleasure? Would it be changing your body in a certain way? You can do it. Would it be breathing, getting more breath in your body? Would it be opening your neck? What right now would just bring you a little bit of pleasure? Good.
Turn the temperature up in here.
Turn the temperature up. Everybody wants it warmer. So your body is actually wired for pleasure. We're wired to feel pleasure. Every cell in your body has pleasure receptors. So you are wired to feel pleasure. It is beneficial to your health. Your sexuality is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. We're here, hopefully we don't experience any waves like that. But it is a force of nature. I was talking to a neurosurgeon, and he had quit neurosurgery to go into sex. And I said, why did you do that? And he said, because it's the most powerful force in the universe. If I want to work in the most powerful area of any area I can work in, it's going to be in sexuality. I was so taken by that. It was something that caused me to go into what I do. This was when I was 19 that I talked to this neurosurgeon who said this. And he said, if I'm going to help people heal, it's going to be in this area. And so I want you all to feel that your sexuality is nothing to be ashamed of, that it's actually one of the most powerful forces in the universe, and it's good for your health. Do we all get that now? Yeah? Great. Okay, so some thriving vitality practices. Awareness and focusing. We started today with a little bit of an awareness exercise of just being aware of what's happening in our body, what's happening in our pelvic floor. How many of you discovered that there was stuff going on in your pelvic floor you didn't know was there? Like it was buzzing, or it was tingling, or there was like a little pulsing or something. Everybody's really shy. They're like, me. So when we focus, we are able to focus on parts of our body we've kind of disowned or we haven't paid attention to. For me, I'll get another little TMI story in here. My area was my anus. I had disowned it. I didn't go to the bathroom. My bowel function was awful. I would go 6 months without going to the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
If you guys heard my history, you'd be surprised I'm alive. I had disowned this area of my body. So when I went to school, this is an area of our body we had to get in touch with. And it was really, really hard for me. There was nothing there. It was like numb. I was disowned. I didn't want to feel anything. And through a number of series of healings, and I had one woman who just held me there, and I just shook. My whole body shook like there was trauma for 45 minutes, just shaking and shaking, and that was all she could do with me. And so it was a series of things that helped me heal this area, but it was part of me just being very aware and focusing on it. What's there? What am I feeling? Am I tensing? Right now I'm tensing it. Right now, what are you guys doing with yours? Are you tensing it? Shake it out a little. Okay, movement. Movement is so important. We don't move enough. We sit in chairs, we sit at desks. So I invite you all to, let's stand up.
Thank you.
And then if you can do this, and you can go on your tippy toes, I want you to squat. This is like the best thing ever for your pelvic floor, is the squat.
Go ahead.
So now there's new studies coming out that squatting is better for you than than the Kegels.
Really?
New studies saying that this is actually better. This is the best motion we can do for our pelvic floor than the Kegels. Go ahead, come up, press your palms together. I'm going to stimulate the lymph system just a little bit here. Press, press, press. Good, and exhale, and then slowly lower your arms. And I just want you to feel, see how much you can be aware of. We're going to mix awareness with movement. Good, and what do you notice in your hands and your fingertips? Tingling, aliveness, heat rushing, blood flowing. Good. Room's getting warmer. Good, now just shake your right hand. So this is the exercise I tell people to do before you make love, but you always want to tell your partner what you're doing before you. Hi, honey, you want to make love tonight?
You make me nervous.
Good. Roll your shoulder, get your shoulder in there.
Or yourself.
Or yourself, yes, if you're going to make love with yourself. You don't have to have a partner. Up and down, across, around. Do the hokey pokey. Okay, now stop. What do you notice?
Blood flow.
More? Good, okay, now we got to balance out both sides. Get that other side going.
Could be a new dance.
It is. It's called the Shakti Shake. Good, and stop and notice, and just close your eyes and just notice. Notice how your breath just changed in that minute. I noticed some people taking a nice big deep breath. What do you notice? Popcorn out? Balanced.
Revitalized.
Revitalized. Good, that just took us a few minutes.
Makes you want more.
Makes you want more. All right, go ahead and sit. So when you get more aroused, you need more oxygen in your cells. So you need to keep increasing the amount of oxygen that's in your body. But what do we see sex modeled as? As pleasure gets higher, what do people do?
Lay down. Yeah.
So when you do that, you're actually decreasing pleasure. You want to make sure that you're breathing nice and big and deep and getting more oxygen in your body. So one of my favorite ways to do this is doing breath ladders. So we're going to do this many inhales, however many I'm holding up my fingers. Can everybody see my fingers? Okay. And then we are going to start with whatever number I'm holding up. And that's your inhale. We're always going to exhale on one. Okay, so let's just start with one inhale in through your mouth and one exhale through your mouth. Good. So what's important on this breath is that we're drawing air like we're sucking in, kind of like through a straw, but we don't need to actually make a straw face. You can just, and then let it fall out. Okay, good. You're not blowing it out. We're not hyperventilating. We're just letting it fall out of our bodies. So inhale. You can close your eyes if you want. Let's move to 2 inhales. 3. 4. So we're gonna do 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Speed it up. Good. Take a deep breath in. Contract your pelvic floor muscles. Hold the breath. Tense all the muscles of your body. Everything tense, tense, tense. Take a breath. And exhale. Woo! Better than drugs. Good. What do you guys feel? What do you notice? Dizzy, lightheaded. Woo! So imagine doing that while you're making love. So do that with eyes open while you're having sex.
Both of you?
Both of you together. It will increase your sensitivity. It will increase the amount of pleasure. It will prolong pleasure. This will keep you from ejaculating quickly, guys, because you're moving the sexual sensation throughout your whole body. You're starting to move orgasmic and sexual energy through your whole body. Did you guys get it all the way to your fingertips and feel it in your toes? You're moving it all over, and this is what being in an ecstatic state feels like. It's a little woozy. It's a little like, giddy. You want more of it. All those little tingles, all of that. We're also changing as acidic. Dr. Bergman talked about being in acidic. When you start getting more oxygen, your pH changes in the blood, so you start moving more alkaline. So some people get like their body tensed up like this, their muscles do that, and it's just the pH changing in the body. It's okay. We did breath ladder. Okay, so pelvic floor exercises. So pelvic floor exercises, there's all different kinds, really great. Men, I recommend getting something called a private gym. It's actually an exerciser you can use that specifically isolates the muscles, the ischiocavernosus and the bulbocavernosus. And those are the muscles you really want to work with. Women, we have learned Kegels, most of us, but most of us don't do them correctly. You really need to focus high in the vagina for those to be effective. And the new studies are saying that Kegels actually, if you're doing them too much, it's sort of like, you ever seen a bodybuilder who walks around like this? Well, that's what happens. If you're doing like too many Kegels, the vaginal tissue is not resilient anymore. It gets like too strong, like a bodybuilder, right? And then you're like too strong. When I was young, I said I wanted to have the vagina steel, so I did lots of Kegels. Then I lost it all with my birth of my son. But what I could do is he could be inside me and I could ripple my vaginal muscles like this, where I could wave them so he never even needed to move. And that was something that I just developed, not just from squeezing. So when people think of Kegels, they think of just squeezing and holding. We also have to learn how to push out. So it's both functions. It's being able to squeeze up, and men, you can do Kegels too, and to push out with your pelvic floor. So you're doing both, pushing up and out, drawing up and out. So I like to think of it as an elevator in my pelvic floor, where we're on ground floor right now. And we're going to take the elevator up. So start squeezing, 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 squeezing. And then you're going to drop it back down slowly, slowly, slowly to ground floor. But then we can also go in the basement. So now we're going to push out, 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 and then come back up, up to neutral. Do you guys feel that in your body? Squeeze up, up, down. It is, and then push out. Good. So that you get both the Kegel and the reverse Kegel and the squatting, because that helps keep the muscles very resilient. We want the pelvic floor to be resilient. As we age, it gets stiff. The muscles there get stiff, and then what do we see? We see this walk. You guys have seen this walk, right? The I shuffle walk, and that's because the pelvic floor muscles have become brittle and very stiff. It's like they become wires instead of nice and soft and resilient. We want the muscles to be soft, resilient, but strong. So we want flexibility and we want strength. All right, so touch is another way. Touch and getting massage. I talked about the touch being really important, but I think one thing we need to delineate is 6 verbs when it comes to touching. Ask, give, take, receive, share, refuse. I'll say them again. Ask.
Is there a place you're supposed to write this in here?
You could write it in there. I don't know if there's a special place for any. You can write it anywhere. Ask, give, receive, take, refuse, and share. Good. So, and I want you to think about which one you have the hardest difficulty with. Is it asking for something that you want? Is it taking something that you want? Is it sharing? At my last workshop, someone came up and said, I have a lot of difficulty sharing. Really hard for me. I like to take and I like to receive, but I don't like to share. And so we worked on that. Or refuse. Is saying no when someone makes an ask to you really hard for you when it comes to sexuality? Good, so let's play a little bit. So if you don't have a partner, you can play on your own arm. And this is PG. We're just going to do hands and arms. And if you do have a partner, then you can share with your partner. And what we're going to do is you're going to focus on giving. So decide who's going to be the giver and who's going to be the receiver. And is there anybody who needs, you can play on your own arm, or you can partner up with somebody you don't know. It's okay. We can all be friends. Okay, so if you don't have a partner, you're going to have a receiving arm and a giving arm. Okay?
The right arm is the receiving.
Your right arm can be it doesn't matter, whatever, right or left. Okay, and so what we're going to do is first you're going to experiment with giving touch to an arm, a partner's or your own. And I want you to focus on trying to please that arm. Like do a technique or focus on your giving and you want to make an effect on that arm. So maybe it's like, okay, well, what would this do? And I want to feel how I could turn it on. Watch for their reaction or your own reaction. What feels good? Get curious about it. Like, what would happen if I did this? And just notice as you're receiving it, you know, if 10 is like really highly pleasurable as they're playing, and 1 is, this isn't pleasurable at all, just where you're at. You don't have to communicate that to them, but just notice where you're at. Those of you who are receiving. Okay, and now we're going to change the intention of the touch. And what I want you to do, givers, is now I want you to switch to being receivers, but what you're going to stay touching. You're going to find your pleasure in your partner's arm or your own arm. So now all of a sudden your moving hand, your active hand, is now becoming the hand that's receiving the pleasure. So how would you change your touch if now you're seeking pleasure in your own hand? So now you are the receiver, even though you're staying active, and your partner is now the giver. Good. And those of you who are receivers, what was more pleasurable, when your partner was trying to please you or when your partner was receiving pleasure through their own hand?
Receiving pleasure.
The second one?
Yeah, second one.
Yeah.
Give me more jokes. Actually, both.
Both, it all felt good. It all felt good. So one of the things, I talk about different stages of lovers in a lot of my workshops. A lot of people focus on the other person and like, am I doing it right? Am I giving them pleasure? And what I think actually gives us more pleasure is when we receive pleasure through them. When we receive pleasure as we're touching them, because now we're no longer thinking, we're actually really present. We're really present with their body, we're really present with what's happening. We're there with them. And the presence is actually more of a turn on. If I could teach one skill to be a great lover, it would be awareness and presence. Being completely present and aware of being with them. Not having two separate sexual experiences where you're in your head and you're in your head, but actually being in your bodies and with each other. All right, so you guys know this. You're going to hear this all weekend: diet, nutrition, nervous system care. I'm a big believer. I tell all of my clients, go see Dr. Bergman. All of them. I mean, I have people flying in from all over to come see him because I believe the nervous system is everything. And so I want to make sure they're checked. I want to see what's going on because that will tell me I need the whole picture. Sexuality isn't just one thing. It isn't just one pill. It's a whole picture. And lots of passion builders. So we just did a passion builder. Just learning how to feel your pleasure in your own hand is a passion builder. That's one way of building passion. Dates. I'm a huge date person, but not just doing a normal date. One of the things that can build passion the most is having obstacles and mystery and naughtiness in your relationship. Or naughtiness could also be novelty if you need to go on a more PG route. So my partner and I do these adventure dates. And we've had some really crazy epic ones. They don't have to be epic, they could be the movies. But one of the most epic adventure dates took me 2 months to plan. We do one a month, that's pretty big, and then we have little ones. We do one every week. And one adventure we did was I took all of his belongings, his phone, his cell phone, everything, no computer, no nothing. I gave him a duffel bag that had a new track phone in it and maps. And I dropped him off at the airport curb and said, see you later, instructions are in the bag. And his first journey was to New York. He flew to New York, a limo picked him up, went into a restaurant, the restaurant's all in on it. So all his food is ordered for him. His first map is to like a place down the street he has to walk to. So I took him on a journey all throughout New York City from text messages and maps in his bag. And he had no idea what was coming next on the adventure. So this was an adventure date where I didn't actually go on the date with him, but I sent him all over the city. Really fun. We did a lot of naughty, fun stuff too in the city. And he had to follow along with the whole thing. And that was the game. And he had a punishment because we were in a dynamic at the time. We were doing research for one of my books called Cuff Tied Satisfied, if that gives you any idea what dynamic we were in. And so he had a punishment coming to him, and he had to go join the Polar Bear Club for the morning. So that was fun. It was really fun. But we've done smaller ones too. He did. So we had a smaller one too recently where he said, don't shave and you're going to be naked. And those were my only clues as to what we were doing. I'm like, don't shave and be naked. What in the world are we going to do? And he blindfolded me. We were walking and I could feel like the floor and things changing. I could hear sounds like we were at an arcade. And we were down on Venice Beach boardwalk, but I didn't know where we were because I'd been blindfolded the whole car drive. You were naked? And I wasn't naked on the Venice Beach. And so we get there and it's a float tank. It's a flotation tank. And so there's salt water in it, which is why I couldn't shave and I was going to be naked in the float tank. So I didn't know that that's what we were doing, but it was awesome when we got there. And then it was a challenge for me. The obstacle was that it's a challenge for me to not be talking for 2 hours or doing on something on my computer or whatever, to really just be in a meditative state for 2 hours in the tank. That was very interesting, but it was awesome. So that was another example. So your partner doesn't know where you're going. There's mystery. There's some kind of obstacle, like a blindfold or something fun that you're playing with there. That is a passion builder.
How did you put the will to do that in your partner?
So if your partner's not interested in doing it, so some motivations like a sexless relationship, that could be a motivation, but also things like, we talk a lot about sexual health. My partner doesn't have the same drive as I do. He's a procrastinator. He doesn't like to plan. He'll plan an adventure date 2 minutes before we're about to go on it. We're total opposites. He's in resistance a lot of time versus me, who's like, this is my work. So we look a lot at what's the resistance, like what's really going on underneath, where if somebody doesn't want to do these things with you or isn't into it, or what's going on? What is the resistance? And let's have a conversation. And this is where the communication really comes in. It's really important of, what do you like to do? And really having that really open, honest communication of, well, what is your fear here? And so when I went to my partner and I said, I want to do 90 days of oral sex straight, he was like, no way. And I kept going, well, what's the problem? Like, why would you not want 90 days of oral sex? Like, what's, I have to do this for a book research? Like, what, and it wasn't about the oral sex at all. It was about the fact that he was afraid he would fail, that he would miss a day, that he wouldn't be able to, that he might get sick, or he wouldn't want to do it one day. And so all we had to do to uncover that resistance was go, okay, you get 10 get out of oral sex free cards.
But you were able to communicate.
But we were able to communicate.
What if it doesn't matter?
If you can't communicate, that's a challenge. That's when you get a third party to come in and really help you communicate. That's when you might go to somebody and say, you know what, we need somebody to hold space for us. We need somebody to help us communicate. Because if you can't communicate, then you really have challenges.
Or maybe you're just in the wrong relationship.
It could be. I'm a big advocate of doing everything I can to save a relationship. Sometimes it is the wrong relationship. And then we have another conversation. There's actually a whole thing happening now called conscious decoupling, which I'm really excited about, which is like ending a relationship in love. And I love that. So nitric oxide, a really important signaling molecule. I have nitric oxide strips. When we come back, not after lunch, but for our last day, I'll bring a strip for everybody so you can test. I have them in my room. So I have nitric oxide strips so you can test your nitric oxide levels. Viagra works on the NO pathway. So this is how they make Viagra work. It works on that pathway. We don't want to take Viagra. We'd rather eat beets, right? Because we don't want to do the drugs and the pharmaceutical companies, all that kind of stuff. So beets, kale, they're foods in high in nitric oxide. Exercise boosts nitric oxide. Your diet, things that deplete it, sedentary lifestyle, smoking, tongue scraping. The back of your tongue is where nitric oxide is produced in the bacteria. So you can scrape the front, but just don't scrape the back, because you're scraping off the bacteria that create the nitric oxide. So I do tongue scrape. I just don't scrape the back, because that's where the good bacteria are that are helping you produce the NO. So,
excuse me,
yeah.
tongue scraping for what reason? Just to clean it?
Mm-hmm. People tongue scrape to clean their tongue. So the NO also is boosted by red foods. So think about red foods: beets, watermelon, hawthorn berry, pomegranates. And we want to have a healthy level of nitric oxide because it's microcirculation. It's what gets the blood flow to all the tiny capillaries in your genitals.
Cranberry juice work?
I stay away from the sugar in the cranberry juice. That's the issue. I mean, so we want to have good amounts of it as well. So kale is the food that's highest in it. And then we go to beets, second highest. Cranberries lower on the list. But yeah, red foods. So eating Miracle Reds, there's a supplement. There's also a supplement called Arnox Advantage.
Yep.
So I have a smoothie for you to boost your sexual health. This is the smoothie, the Thriving Sexual Vitality Smoothie. So this is a half a cup of frozen strawberries mixed with a half a can of coconut milk. Now if you want to turn this into an ice cream, you can you guys can take a picture of it. If you want to make it into ice cream, take your coconut milk, the canned coconut milk, and you freeze it. And then make ice in an ice cube tray, and then you take those ice cubes and put them in the blender with the frozen strawberries, and then you pound it in your Vitamix in your blender, and that will make this ice cream instead of a smoothie. So half a teaspoon of vitamin C powder, or I love lipospheric vitamin C, Arnox Advantage, or you could use Miracle Reds, but I prefer the Arnox Advantage. Half a teaspoon of lysine, proline, arginine, citrulline, the precursors to the nitric oxide, the pine bark extract. So all those mixed together in your smoothie, really good.
And the basic thing that this is doing is boosting nitric oxide.
It's boosting nitric oxide, yeah. And also circulation. So really we're looking at circulation. We're really boosting the circulation. We're getting all the little micro capillaries. So arousal is with micro capillaries. They're teeny, teeny, tiny little things. And they work in a very specialized way so that we can get engorged or aroused or tumesced. There's a lot of different words.
Any nitric on things or nitrous on?
Nitric. Nitrous is the laughing gas. We don't want nitrous. Okay, so one of my big things is making sure you get tested because you can't change what you don't measure. Dr. Bergman has excellent tests. One thing I think that's really important that Dr. Bergman tests is, are you in your parasympathetic or your sympathetic nervous system? They actually control two different parts of your sexuality. So parasympathetic is your climax, or sorry, not your climax. Parasympathetic is your arousal, and it's different kinds of orgasms. So the parasympathetic nervous system innervates, the deep pelvic nerve innervates like the G-spot, the uterus, different things that are different kinds of orgasms. So if I want to have a cervical orgasm, I want to be more in my parasympathetic. Or if I want to have more of a G-spot or a deep pelvic orgasm, parasympathetic, versus clitoral, which is more sympathetic. It's a different orgasm. Ejaculation for men it's the shoot. It is the sympathetic. Whereas parasympathetic is going to be your deeper orgasms, like your prostate orgasm. I mean, how many of you guys even knew you could have these orgasms? Or how many of you knew? Dr. Bergman did. How many of you knew that your clitoris has legs, ladies? Or men, that your penis actually has an internal structure that doesn't ever get touched? Your penis has a whole root to it. And ladies, you have clitoral legs. So your clitoris is actually shaped like this. So you have the head of your clitoris. Here, I'll draw it. I didn't know I was going to get into clitorises today.
You should probably close the door again.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they need to hear it too.
So this is the shape of your this is the shape of your clitoris. This is the head, which is they say 8,000 nerve endings, but actually I just talked to a doctor who's been doing dissections of the clitoral head to see how many nerve endings are actually there, and he said it's more like 15,000. So all packed into that spot. And for the majority of women, it's on this side. You want to do upstroke on this side for 15 minutes to downregulate the nervous system, get her into parasympathetic. Really great way to downregulate.
15 minutes?
15 minutes of stroking here. It's called orgasmic meditation.
That's the Om thing.
Oming, orgasmic meditation, yeah. 1:30 position. There's the hood of the clitoris, which is like the foreskin. There's the shaft of the clitoris. Then we have the legs. This is external, and this is all internal. And then we have actually these things called vestibular bulbs, which look a lot like testicles, that are also inside the body. I call them clitoral bulbs because some people say they're not attached to the clitoris. My felt experience is that they are. The jury's still out on, we don't have a lot of sex research, so things are still out on how the body works. Some people say this comes all the way down into a circle. And female arousal is 360 degrees. We have something down here called a perineal sponge. And then up in here we have the G-spot, which is actually another sponge, and it's more like a tube. I have to draw it a different direction. This would be this right here, but you're looking straight in. This is a side view, like this. And the urethra runs through it. Biggest concentration of nerve endings is usually here in this front area. Some women have it back here, some women have it in the middle. So they call it the G-spot. It's actually not a spot at all. It's a tube. And the urethra runs through that tube. And it's spongy tissue. So it absorbs fluids. So if I drew this from the side, the clitoris would be like, here's the external part, and then the legs come down like this, right, and the bulbs like that. Is that better? Help you? You're like, no, I still don't get it. Let me, okay, so let me think of how I can do this from the side. So if we are looking at it from the front, here's your urethra. This is where pee comes out or ejaculate comes out on the women. Here is your vaginal opening, and here's your anus. I thought for a long time I peed out of my clitoris. Like until I was like 19. I didn't know that I didn't pee out of my clitoris. And up here is your clitoris. So here's your clitoral head. So this is the urethra, and I draw a circle around the urethra because there's actually erectile tissue that surrounds the urethra. And so if we're looking at this, if we turned all this sideways, if we're looking directly into the pelvis like this, and now we're going to turn it sideways. This is a tube, this is a tube, this is a tube. Okay, and this is coming up and down. That's the shaft of the clitoris. All right? Does that help you?
Yeah.
Okay, so then your cervix is going to come back in here. Don't mind my drawing. My cervix is kind of funny. And this goes to the bladder. So this is going to go up to the bladder, and then this goes intestines, all that good stuff. And then this is going to come down over the leg of the clitoris is coming on the side, and then the bulb here. So women's erection is 360 degrees around. Man's is out. Does that make sense? So we're actually, if this is the vaginal opening here, these swell, this swells, and it all pushes in on the vaginal canal. So don't let any doctor, ladies, ever tell you you need a husband's knot. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah.
They put an extra stitch in a woman to make her tighter. They call it the husband's knot. It causes all kinds of issues. I've had to work with a lot of people who've had this. And also don't let them give you numbing cream if you have pain. I cannot tell you how many horror stories I've heard of, oh my, it hurts during sex. Here's a numbing cream. Great, so now I don't feel anything. What's the point, right? So no numbing creams, no extra stitches. And then I work with a lot of people who have labiaplasties and that kind of stuff because they think that they're abnormal, when in truth, everybody's different. Sometimes they medically name them wrong as well. Labia minora and labia majora. Labia minora means small lip. Labia majora means big lip. So then women look at their vulva and they go, but my inner lips are bigger than my outer lips. I must be wrong. I must be broken. But they're named wrong. So I like to call them the inner and outer folds. So you have your inner and outer folds. They're beautiful, no matter what size they are. We have hymenal tags, so sometimes around the vaginal opening you'll see like this kind of stuff. That's all okay. Stuff's supposed to be there. Don't let anybody cut it off. Don't let anybody tell you that it's wrong. There's actually pleasure in these little things. And so I see a lot of people who have little pieces and things shaved and cut, and it causes scar tissue, and then we start having pain. Then we start having brittleness in the tissue. And I won't get into also what we do to boys, but okay, so we have penis. I'm just going to use a new thing. What kind of penis is that? What kind of sexologist am I?
We did not agree with this penis.
Okay. So penis and testicles. So underneath your testicles, you have a root of your penis before we get to the anus. So in here is the root. So it's actually the internal structure of the penis. And this actually is very pleasurable when touched, so you can stroke it, you can play with it. If we don't have circumcision, we have a hood of the penis. It's like a halo. I like to draw them like they're halos. And we have all different kinds of sizes and shapes and all kinds of good stuff too. Size doesn't matter, angle does, guys. This is the #1 question I get from guys. How do I make my penis bigger? How do I stop ejaculating quickly? I probably get those questions 5 times a day in an email. So don't worry about your size. What is important is arousal, is blood flow. The more blood flow you can get to her, we saw 360 degrees around, the tighter. It's not that she needs extra stitches or that she's loose so that her muscles are not tight. It's an arousal issue. It takes about 45 minutes for a woman to fully engorge with blood. Men, it's a much quicker thing happening. Now, unless you're wired a certain way, I'm wired differently. I'm wired more like a male body. I can go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. But I've done a lot of training, a lot of personal training here. So the male body, we also have the prostate. I'm going to move on just because I have so much I want to cover, but if we have more questions about that when we have time at the end, I'll go more into it, okay, into anatomy. Good, did you guys just learn something about your bodies?
Yes.
Yeah. Most people come to me and they go, how could I have lived in my body this long and not even known I had parts or what they feel like or where they are or how to touch them? One big piece of my work is doing body mapping, where I actually associate you with the body part. Here I'm touching it. Here's a scale of 1 to 5. Tell me what you feel. Now I'm doing this motion. So you can actually feel what's happening in your body. These are the tests to get tested: sex hormones, neurotransmitter dominance, nervous system. I talked about those. I want to have a mindset moment, because what I find a lot of people do is they'll try something I recommend in a class and they go, it didn't work. So I want you all to imagine that you went to yoga class, and your first yoga class you just said, yoga didn't work. I didn't get thinner, I didn't get more flexible, I didn't. So you have to say instead, I can work this. Sometimes it takes time to create change in the body as we're starting to breathe and move and do our exercise, do our Kegels and our different exercises, or just communicating with our partner. Sometimes we mess up. I mean, I have moments still where I'm still learning things, like my sound experiment. And I don't go, it didn't work. I go, how can I tweak it? It's like sailing a ship, right? What if the captain of the ship said, oh, it doesn't work, and he just never stopped steering the ship? And we just ran into things. That would not be good. So what we need is, it didn't work, okay, course correct. What do I need to do next time? Or how can I practice this? Maybe I need to practice it a little differently. Maybe I have to have a different mindset. Okay, shame. I like to talk about the difference between shame and guilt. So shame is when you say I am bad, and guilt is when you say my behavior was bad. And there's a big difference psychologically in these two. Shame has a detrimental effect. Guilt sometimes can have actually a good effect, sometimes, depending on how we use it. Shame in most sense is usually a negative effect on our psyches, on our bodies, on our ability to feel pleasure, on hiding. We go into denial. We have all kinds of behaviors based on shame. And again, I will say I have my shame edges. They still come up. Sometimes I'll say something, and I'm talking to an audience and I'll blush, and that's okay. That's maybe not shame coming up, but sometimes I'll say it and then I'll ruminate on it for 5 days. Oh my God, I shouldn't have told that audience about my anal whatever. And then I'll ruminate on it, and then I notice I'm in a shame storm, or I lash out at somebody, or I blame somebody else. I'll blame my manager. You should have warned me that those people were really conservative and I can't talk about my anus in that room. Because I'm in shame. So that will be one of my points. Maybe I say something and then I'll think about it, and then I'll blame somebody else, and I watch that because my pattern is shame and blame. When I go into shame, I'll blame somebody else for something that happens. So I want us to keep checking ourselves about shame. So where has shame made a home in your body? When you feel shame, what do you feel? When you feel like you're ashamed of yourself, when you feel like I've revealed too much, or I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't have done that, where does it live in your body? I'm always bringing it back to the body because the body doesn't lie. The body is always telling the truth. And so when I feel shame, I feel it actually in my forearms. I get like a rush that goes through my forearms, and I get kind of cold. My hands get clammy. What are the physical symptoms that you feel when you're in shame? Because it's a really good thing to recognize it and then name it. I'm in shame. Shame just came up. And then the other thing I ask is, does it belong to me? Is it my shame? Or is it the belief system of the culture? Is it my parents? Is it, whose voice is this shame? Is it something I was taught growing up? And it isn't actually my belief. It isn't something that belongs to me. Or does it belong to me? Maybe it is mine. Okay, thank you, body, for sharing. And now I'm going to find a place in my body where I don't have that shame. And I'm going to connect the two. We're always going to connect a place where we're energetically resourced with a place where we're energetically depleted. So shame is a depletion, but we're going to find a place where we feel really good about ourselves. And we're going to connect those two. And it's just by bringing awareness of saying, you know what, right here I feel shame, or in my body it's here. Right here I feel shame, and right here I feel really great. And I'm just going to keep going back and forth and wiring the two together to help the shame.
Does it goes back to being able to say no as well?
Yes, it does. I mean, so not saying no could be a shame. Not being able to refuse could be a shame piece. Because if I refuse, I'm going to be rejected. I'm not going to belong. I'm not good enough if I say no. Because how many of you are actually rewarded for saying no? We usually feel that we're going to be punished for saying no. All right, so sex ed. We've all had sexual mentors, even though we think we haven't been educated about sex. Okay, how many of you did your parents teach you about sex? Like actually tell you everything about your clitoris and all that kind of good stuff? Okay. I ask audiences all over the world this question, and I might get 1 or 2 people who raise their hand because your parents weren't educated about sex. It's not necessarily their fault, or they had their own shame storm going on and they couldn't talk about it. But you did have mentors. Maybe it was your friends, maybe it was watching porn, maybe it was reading about it in a magazine, but you did have some kind of mentorship. And even if your parents didn't talk about it, it was talked about. It was talked about like this. Mom, how do babies made? The stork. I just told my child all kinds of things. 1, it's not okay to ask those questions because now I'm really uncomfortable. 2, it makes my parents really uncomfortable. I shouldn't ask those questions. What are the messages we've been sending children about their sexuality, about their bodies? I had a client who, his mom told him that when he got a little bit older, some stuff was going to come out of his penis and he better not touch it like a dirty old man, and here are some diapers. He wore diapers until he was 23 years old. That was a big lesson on sexuality. So
That's for real?
that's for real. That is a real story. So we have to watch the shame elements, and we have to watch. I have a 6-year-old son, and this is so interesting, the conversations we'll have, appropriate for his age, but I don't bring anything up until he asks me about it. And to watch, okay, he's had enough, he's had his limit, but we're always teaching them about their bodies. You know, don't touch down there, don't, do this, cross your legs, good girls cross their legs. Those kinds of messages teach us about our sexuality. That's also an education. So majority of us had sexual mentors, they've just been not good ones. All right, so this is really the foundation of my work here, and this is what I've been spending most of my research on for the last 3 years. Are these 5 different blueprints, and I want you all to be able to have your blueprint type by the end of this class. So if you're an energetic, you're turned on by anticipation, tease, and you prefer a light hovering touch. So that might be like a touch like this, very light. You need an emotional connection. It must be there. I would say you're probably an energetic. You can feel me across the room. If I gaze into your eyes, you can feel that moment. And you feel it in your body. Whereas somebody who's not energetic may not feel me this far away. And energetic, positives, they're highly sensitive. They could have orgasms from like the sunlight. Like I could walk out there on the deck and just be like, oh my God, the sun, the waves, the ocean, and get completely in an orgasmic state because I'm so sensitive to the energies around me. Shadow side, they're so hypersensitive that they shut off. So if you go too much, too quick, without an emotional connection, without some kind of something, they will turn off, shut off, done. Like if you go to my clitoris too much, too quick, too fast, I'm going to short circuit and go numb instead of being highly turned on. Same thing with a male who's an energetic. You go straight for their penis, done. Needs, they need light hovering touch, lots of anticipation, eye contact, breathing, energetic connection, games, good energy games like energy play games. Sensual, turned on by all of their senses being engaged. They're turned on by romance, sensory play. My partner is a sensual. He needs the right kind of music. He likes the candles lit. He wants to take a hot bath. He needs to be relaxed. He can't just like go for it. We have this whole setup. I had a sensual client, and his wife was a sexual, the next one. She's naked on the bed. She's a supermodel. She's naked on the bed, just gorgeous body, everything just gorgeous laid out, her gorgeous hair. And he does not see her on the bed. He sees the socks on the floor. And the socks on the floor make him think about the work he has to do, makes him think about the laundry, makes him think about the kids, and he cannot get turned on. And this is the sensual shadow. They're so caught in their mind is chattering so fast, it's really hard for them to focus. They focus on what's wrong in the room versus what's right in the room. So they're gonna notice, it's too cold in here, the lights are too bright, all those kinds of things, and they're not gonna be able to actually get into their body because they're too busy noticing all those things. That's much of the shadow. But when they're in their body, it's deep, beautiful, they bring a lot of beauty to the sexual experience. Sexual, they can go from 0 to 60 really quickly. They love sex, they love nudity. They're very turned on by straightforward, like, we're gonna have sex. Awesome, they know what we're doing. They can get that's my I'm a sexual energetic, so actually I have this balance of the two where I'm like, I wanna know that we're having it. I want the certainty that we are having sex. I want to know what's going on. I want to be naked. But then my body goes into energetic shift. Oops, too fast. Went there too fast. So I have this balance of these two, which is really interesting. The shadow side is they can get too focused on an end goal or too focused on what sex is. Like sex means I have to have an erection. Sex means you have to be wet. Sex means we have to have penetration and orgasms. When there's a whole other world, there's energetic sex where we never even touch each other and have orgasms. There's sensual sex where we are completely satisfied and we never even went there. So there's so many different kinds of sex, but the sexual gets limited in one little box. Kinky, so these are people who are turned on by taboo. Anything that's outside of your box. How many of you read 50 Shades of Grey? Okay, most of the women in the room. Or saw the movie. So this is actually something we're getting more permission for. I bring my mom to my events sometimes, and she likes to represent the kinky box. So sometimes I'll get everybody up in the room and we go to where our blueprint is in the room, and she'll run over and she'll be like, I'm kinky! and so I'm like, thank you, mother, for representing the kinkies. My partner Ian is also a kinky, so he's a kinky sensual and I'm an energetic sexual. We oftentimes will attract our opposite because we're seeking to complete ourselves sexually. We need the full spectrum of sexual expression. And so we'll find somebody who's our opposite because opposites attract. And our blueprint just shows us where we're limited. We actually want to be able to do all of these. So the kinky is turned on by taboo. Their deep shadow is shame. They're the least likely to go stand in the corner with the kinkies because they don't want to actually admit that they are a kinky. They like power dynamic. Kinky does not mean dungeons and whips and chains. Kinky just means it's outside of your box. It's taboo. It feels naughty. There's an element of power in the play. Kinky could be, I had sex out of missionary position, if that is taboo for you. So it's whatever is taboo is kinky. They need safety. They need non-judgmental space. They need setting context, really, really important. So there's content, I'm kissing, there's context. I'm kissing you because I own you, because you're my woman, because I want you, because I'm gonna ravish you, because I'm gonna take you right now, because I haven't seen you in 10 years. That's a much different kiss than just a kiss. How many of you felt that in your body when I said that? Shapeshifter. So the shapeshifter is somebody who's fluent in all of these types. They have the energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky. And they are the most sophisticated of all the blueprints. Some people say they're the most complicated. I don't like to say that. I like to say they're sophisticated. They're just erotically intelligent. They may need something different on every night, or they may need all of these on one night. Their shadow side is that they're always shapeshifting to please somebody else and never really being pleased themselves. So if I'm a shapeshifter, I might go, oh, my partner's sensual, so I'm going to be sensual all the time. And then they're not being fed in the whole rest of their blueprint. The shapeshifter can also have all of the shadows instead of all of the positives. So I have some clients who just live in all the shadow and none of the positive. And so that's so funny. I go here and my hand instantly hurts. It's crazy how energetic. That's crazy. So shapeshifters, all shadows, and if you're a shapeshifter shadow, that is a whole, like, you need help if you're in a shapeshifter shadow, meaning get somebody to help you move out of the shadow and into the positive here. Because usually that's a very shut down sexuality that's going on in that place. The shapeshifter needs a lot of variety. They need to know that you can play with them. They need certainty. You're going to want 8 hands when you play with a shapeshifter because you could do fur mitts and genital touch, and I'm going to set the context, and we need to have the music right, and now we're going to play energetically. Okay, now back to the body, and now I'm going to get something with this hand. And so shapeshifters are very fun to play with. It's like playing a fine instrument. I love them because it is like the best instrument of all instruments, where you just barely pluck them and they start doing things, and then you pluck over here and you can play with all of the languages. So it's being multilingual. Okay.
If we want to learn more about that, is that in one of your books, or how do we?
So I will give you some information on how to, there's actually a quiz on my website. So I'll give you some information here at the end on how to get to that quiz so that you can go and take the quiz, and then you'll be in. I'm getting ready to release a program on this. I don't have it available yet. It's only available to my VIP people, but it's coming very soon.
What's your website?
It's missjaiya.com. I'll have it up because my name is spelled funny. So we need to learn how to feed, speak, heal, and expand your blueprint. So those are the 4 things we do with your blueprint. 1, you need to get it fed. Figure out what really feeds that blueprint. How do you heal it? We move out of the shadow and into the light. How do you speak it? You know, I'm not going to say to an energetic, I want to suck your... Excuse me, sorry. I just had a shame moment come up, so I'm just going to speak it. Did anybody else feel their bodies go, ugh? My energetic goes, ugh, every time I hear that word. I'm not going to say that to an energetic, but I will say that to a sexual. I'm not going to say that to a sensual, but I will say that to a sexual. I might say that to a kinky in the right context, and I might say it to a shapeshifter if I've gotten them to that place where they can hear that. But to an energetic, I might say something like, I would love to connect with you and appreciate your body and actually worship your sexuality.
Yeah, right.
and a sexual goes,
You can actually say, you can say it, but you can say it with softness and love.
absolutely. I would love to worship your genitals this evening. I would love to worship your lingam. You know, that's the Sanskrit word is lingam. So energetics, there's light energetics and there's also dark energetics. So dark energetic might be a little different because we're also playing with polarity. Sensual, you know, I might say something like, I want to lick you from head to toe, so that there's a sensuality to it. So there's all kinds of different, and notice when I say these things, what happens in your body. Do you feel shame response in your body? Do you feel turned on in your body? Because the body's telling you the truth about this moment. Did you stop breathing? And then we're going to expand our blueprint, which means we're going to learn how to speak other languages, essentially. We're going to learn how to speak the other blueprints. So I want you guys to learn the different layers, and the layers move through blueprints. So in massage school, they taught us layers of palpation. So I want you to feel, I want you to start way out here on your own arm. And I want you to start feeling, where does it change? Like, where does it feel like it gets thicker, or you can feel it, or you feel tingling in your hand, or the air, just something changes. So just look around a little bit and see where people are. Okay, so touch starts out here. This is the energetic blueprint. You can play, like I'm getting chills all over my body just from doing this right now. So you can play way out here. Maybe some of the energetics, I have some that are like out here, is where you start playing with their sexuality. My partner has figured out how to play energetically now with me. He's not energetic, and it's like his woo, that's all woo woo, whatever. He's really skeptical. And so now he's tapped into it, but he tapped into it through his kinky blueprint. So he's kinky. So what he does to me is he'll go like this from across the room. And then it takes it away. And I'm like, that's not fair. But he likes to be in the power dynamic. So he's doming me. He's being in control. He's playing with me from across the room like this. And it's so not fair. Because then I'm all like, stop. It's like he's got a remote control, right? He's just like having so much fun. Stop. Okay, so we're here. We found the energetic field. Now I want you to come down into, we're going to always land a plane. We're never going to crash it, okay? So we're going to land the plane on our arm gently. Coming into the awareness of the touch. Good. And now just feel the hairs on your arm. You're not touching your skin. You're above. You're hovering above. Good. This is still energetic touch. Got chills? Good. And now we're going to go into the skin. And what we're going to do on the skin is we're going to contour our hand around the skin. And this is much better when we have massage oil. But we're just going to contour around the skin and just feel the skin. You're not going into muscle yet, just skin. Okay, and then next we're going to go into the muscle. So feeling the muscle, really feeling, squeezing into the muscle. And actually between the muscle and the skin, I forgot a layer, which is the fascia. So we can slide the skin just a little bit. It kind of feels slippery. That's the fascial layer. Good, and then we got the muscle. And then finally is bone. And I like to say bone's more the kinky blueprint, because that's where we're going to use directives. You know, like my partner might grab me around my wrist and say, come, and drag me to the bed. So bone. Taken? Taken. That's taking. Bone's how we take. But we also have these big bony structures that I think are designed for the hands to go into. If you go right here in your shoulder, your hand fits right into that. Do you feel how your hand fits? Same thing around the pelvis. The hand fits. So I have a whole class on erotic wrestling that we do, where I teach you how to use the bones. I think bones are so sexy. People don't think of the bones as a sexual organ. They're incredibly sexy. So those are the different layers of touch. So next time you're touching your partner or you're touching yourself, remember you're going to land a plane. So you're coming in through the energetic field, coming down in, and then you're going to touch from there. And then the plane also has to take off. You're not just going to touch and then come back on. So when I do this a lot with when I'm teaching men's classes as well, I'll have the guys come up and I'll be like, all right, touch me. And inevitably the guy will go. It's a great teaching moment because I can teach him, how to come into the body, how to really be with the body, how to sink into the body, as opposed to just touching it. And so the same thing goes for our genitals. We don't just go for them. We're going to land the plane. We're going to start from the energetic field and we're going to come in, especially if your partner's an energetic. That's really, really important. Okay, communication. So effective communication, we want to be seen. Women want to be seen, we want to be felt, we want to know that we're heard. Who would like to be my demo? Do I have a couple who would like to be my demo? So women want to be heard, felt, and seen, and the way that we hear, felt, see them is not to wall off. What walling off is he gets in his head and now he's thinking, oh my God, I'm wrong. He goes into his shame storm, he goes into guilt storm, he goes into defensiveness. If he had said, no it's not, my button's fine. Why do you always need to fix my button? Why do you always have to find something wrong with me? That's getting defensive. Or if he's going, okay, we need to fix this right away. How can we fix the button? Let's brainstorm on fixing the button. That also is not hearing her and not feeling her. So he has to take a moment to breathe in his heart and really feel her and breathe with her. On the opposite end, when we're coming at men, we can tell them what something will provide for them. So we can say, hey, you know what? I noticed your button's off, and if we fix that will provide me with so much relief and relaxation, then I could really focus on you and I could get into sexy time. The man will fix the button. Fix the button. All right, so I have a 6-step process for creating longevity in relationships, so I just wanted to go through it really, really quickly here. So first is knowing your blueprint. That's your erotic blueprint breakthrough. You need to know what your blueprint is so that everything works off of that blueprint. Second, learning connection, that is communication for connection. This is how your body tone is, your vocal tone is, your body language is. It's not the words you use. The words you use are 7%. The rest is all body language because the body is not lying. So if I'm going, I love you, do you believe me? No. Exactly. Whereas if I go, I love you, that helps a little bit because my vocal tone changes, right? But if I go, I love you, you're much more to believe me in that moment because I've changed those things. Frequent, fulfilling sex. We saw that sexual frequency actually helps our health. And when we have frequent sex, it actually makes us desire more frequent sex. So we want sex and we want it to be fulfilling because what's the point of having sex if it doesn't feel good, right? I mean, other than, yeah, maybe it helps with our health and stuff like that, but when it feels good, it means your hormones are doing the right things. So we want it to feel good. Irresistible magnetic attraction, this is where you can't keep your hands off each other. You just have to be touching, you have to be close, you want that magnetic attraction. Thriving sexual vitality, this is all the sexual health. It's having the smoothies, the nitric oxide, your spine in alignment, all that kind of good stuff. And then finally, advanced skills and erotic secrets. This is when we go to things that are like what's possible, like having multiple orgasms for men, non-ejaculatory orgasms for men, multiple orgasms for women, different orgasms, different places in your body, non-genital orgasms. There's a lot that's possible that we don't even know is possible that I keep having be possible with people where they're like, I didn't know that could happen. And it's what you don't know that you don't know. And that's a big part of the pie. Okay, good. We got the map. All right, so information alone is not transformation. You have to take action. You can do it on your own, but most people need help in this area. What works best is having a lot of support and a lot of accountability here. And I love to help. All right, so this is one of our events. This is another couple. They were together for 14 years, and they She had one foot out the door. She was ready to leave because she was not sexually satisfied. He'd tried everything. He's sexually wired, and she is sensual, very sensual, but she moved more into like shapeshifter. She's sort of like a sensual, energetic, very sophisticated blueprint. And he just couldn't figure it out. He's trying everything. And she's just getting more frustrated, and she's about to leave. So they came to work with me. And we figured out their blueprints. And now, this last event, they're like my event junkies, so they come to all my events. This last event, I watched her working with him on one of the tables, and he was having energetic orgasms. And this is a guy who's really sexually wired, like very sexually wired. So he has now expanded into the energetic blueprint. They're happier than ever. Her goal was to have a mind-blowing orgasm. She'd never had a mind-blowing. Like, she'd had orgasms. They were okay. Genital sneezes, we call them. And she'd had a couple of those, and she wanted to have one that was just earth-shattering, her idea of what mind-blowing was. And she did. She accomplished that. So she felt really ecstatic about that. And that's them on the stage talking about her mind-blowing orgasm. So let's take a breath together. Another one. Good. Yeah, good. So just bring your awareness to your nose and just begin breathing in and out of your nose. Feeling the air enter and leave. And I want you to imagine for yourself what's possible. That ecstatic leaping for joy, crazy orgasmic pleasure, that aliveness, your health being so amazing that your sexual health is also right there with it. Feeling like you're 16 or in your early 20s, wherever you want to be there in your body. And just let that aliveness spread all over your body. And see if you can, just with your mind, get your body to start tingling with aliveness, turn on, pleasure. And see what it is on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, and see if you can get it to a 10, just using your own mind. Or maybe contract your pelvic floor just a little bit to help. Good, and take a big deep breath. And exhale, opening your eyes. Good, were any of you able to raise the level of awareness and aliveness in your body, just using your own mind? Amazing. So next time you have sex, use your own mind to get yourself there. You don't even need a partner. I want you to take a moment to think of 3 things you learned today and 1 thing you're going to take action on. And so what are you going to take action on leaving this room? Okay, so website, did it come up? No, it didn't come up. I'll write it up here. I'll write it up here under the penis. Okay. It's Miss MISS Jaiya, JAIYA.com. And you can go there and take a slide. Take a quiz, MissJaiya.com, on your blueprint. So there's a quiz on there that will tell you what to do, how to determine who you are. So if you're confused, JAIYA.com.
Wow. Yeah. Was that like ridiculously fast?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish you were here more.
I am. I'm here the whole time.
It took
Come pick my brain.
months to get her on the cruise. Months. I was saying, please. Luckily, we hostage your son. So.
It's my son. It's all my son's fault. So it's his birthday coming up in a month, and this is what he wanted to do for his birthday. Because I pick very few speaking gigs a year. So.
And I took him aside and said, "Talk to your mom."
Yeah, you can thank my son.
Yes, thank you so much. But please, I mean, go to her website, go to her seminars. I spoke at one of her seminars. A couple of months ago? December, yeah. And I mean, the energy of the group is out of this world, but it's just amazing. It wakes you up inside, and it breaks down a lot of the barriers. So please.
We were trying to figure out your blueprint.
You knew what Sarah's was, but Sarah wasn't even there.
Everybody was like,
yeah.
I haven't figured Dr. Bergman out yet. You might be a shapeshifter. You're the ones that are hard to figure out. I can't figure them out.
Yeah, I'm a Zen shapeshifter.
Yeah.
Okay, we're here with Jaiya. We just finished an amazing cruise, okay? And I want to find out more. I mean, what do you want the takeaway to be for everyone that's been to the cruise and everyone who hasn't? What do you want to know about you?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is about getting education and to realize that we've all had mentorship around our sexuality. It's just the majority of people have actually had negative mentorship. And so it's time to get new mentorship that's positive, that's actually feeding you in a holistic, healthy sexuality.
Very cool. And how can they get in touch with you?
So my website is Miss Jaiya, MissJaiya.com, and you can go there and actually take out a quiz to find out what your blueprint is. We've been talking about erotic blueprints, and I think that's one way to get a better education is about knowing yourself and knowing your own body, and knowing what your blueprint is can really help you. So there's a quiz there, you can take that and find out who you are.
And what's your next event that you have coming up?
My next event coming up is called Path to Passion, and it's an event that's open to the public, and that's where we go diving deep into everybody should leave knowing their blueprint, knowing what that is, knowing how to create passion in a long-term relationship for their lifetime. Because I don't believe what a lot of therapists say, which is like, oh, you know, passion sort of dwindles over time, or you should just get used to being friends. No, I think that healthy sexuality is thriving in passion, is vital, is radiant, and that can happen over your entire lifetime.
I got to tell you, you awoken something inside of me.
I usually do.
But because your perception of how the body is, I mean, the different stages of touch. I had no idea what you were going to speak about, but it was exciting, and you really changed perceptions. And that's everything. It was so much fun. But do not miss her events. Go as much or as often, and prepare to have your mind blown. And other parts.
I do have a book called Blow Each Other Away. So.
Yeah. And the book, the first book that I read,
Red Hot Touch.
Red Hot Touch. Amazing, amazing. You got to get it, try it, read it, and do the homework.
Do the homework.
Homework is fun in my career.
Good. Thank you so much for making it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been a pleasure being part of this, and you're incredible. Thank you.
Thanks. That was fun.